Alright, peace to you, man. How are you? Now, you might be noticing the hat I'm wearing right now, and you might also be noticing throughout a couple of my videos the hats I've been wearing. They all say one God on the front, and on the back there's a wholesome message usually. This one says one doctrine on the back, and others of them say flat earth truth, one truth, the complete Quran, but they always say one God. And I've switched up my style, and the reason for that, although it may seem so small and insignificant, my wife and we had a conversation this one time. This was a while back. I sold all of those hats that I used to have, because if you remember in my previous videos, I used to wear like Chicago Bulls and LA Lakers and what are these like NBA, MLB. Now, just as a quick kind of background, I don't watch any sports, okay? I don't watch any sports, and as less as I watch sports, I play even less than that. I'm terrible at all sports, and I've always been terrible. The only sports I've ever been good at were badminton, which I played on the badminton team in high school, and boxing, which I really liked. But other than that, team sports, basketball, baseball, I don't know anything about that, whatever. I remember when I was in high school, there was this one time, like, I was actually practicing because I wanted to get good at basketball, because I liked the idea of basketball, although I was never good at it. And I was so bad that the people in my school, or like the guys who would be on the court, they would make fun of me. They would call me Waleed Jordan every time I shot a ball, because they just mockingly call me Waleed Jordan because I could never make a shot and I could never dribble the ball, could never put it through my legs. I was terrible at all sports, but I nevertheless wore these hats because I liked the way they look. But then I thought to myself, and my wife and we had this conversation, really, how important is that in the end, that I like the way the hats look, right? Because think about what I'm repping on the end. What does this symbolically mean? The hat you wear on your head, or any clothing you really wear, anything you sport or adorn yourself with, it's almost like your crown. And in particular, your hat is like your crown. Just like a woman's headscarf, it's like a crown. It's what's right on top of your head. It's really what you're all about. And what am I repping when I'm wearing these hats? And this topic, this discussion that my wife and I had, it's inspired me to make a video on sports in general and the complete vanity and nonsense that it is, the sports industry as a whole. So when I'm wearing this, what am I representing? What has sports become nowadays? At least big league sports, the teams that people rep. The Toronto Raptors, that's big here. The Toronto Maple Leafs or whatever. What's the other one? The Blue Jays. What am I repping? I'm repping rigged fakeness. Now, sports, if you don't know, if you don't live in reality, Major League Sports is completely and utterly fixed and rigged. The whole thing is set up to maximize profit margins, okay? That is the thing. Steroids, scandals, all kinds of stuff, rigged matches, using magnets in the balls and technology in the balls to rig games. The gambling houses, they don't want to pay out. On top of that, I mean, there's so much detail that you can go into on why sports is rigged, and why, at least from a financial standpoint, it's better for them to rig sports, because it's not about the athleticism per se. That's not really what it is. What these people are doing, these MLB and these NBA, they're creating storylines. The majority of their money that is spread throughout the entire league, it comes from viewing and broadcasting, and the more eyes they get on the TV, that's where the majority of their money comes from, for all teams, regardless of whether they win or lose. And that's how they make their money. So really, the best thing they can do from an economic standpoint, from a financial standpoint, is not necessarily to have teams playing honest and fair games. They want to create storylines, and it's all a fantasy and an image. And I'm not going to go into the details of all of that now. I'm going to analyze more of sports from a cultural perspective. But if you want to go more into the rigged fakeness of sports, you can check out a guy on YouTube. I consider him the authority on this subject. And by the way, I apologize. There's a guy using a leaf blower beside me. But the authority on YouTube, and the excellent presentation he makes, is a guy named Brian Tuohy. Brian Tuohy. So BrianTuohy. And he goes into all of the history of sports, how the gambling houses, they've been rigging it because they don't want to pay out when it comes to payday. They want to rig matches in their favor for profit margins. And if you want to go into a little more of a conspiratorial analysis on the matter, you can check out another guy on YouTube. His name is Zach Hubbard, and he specializes in gematria. And he'll go into more of the occult numerology behind the numbers and the scores and the points and everything like that. And both of these guys, if you study them deeply, you're going to realize how fake sports really is. And it makes sense, because everything else in this world is fake. Everything else in the system is fake, so why not sports? It's just natural. These people, all they care about is money. But sports from a cultural perspective, what does that really mean? What is this? What this system has done is it's sold men fake masculinity. Fake masculinity. Let me preface this by saying there's nothing wrong with playing sports. If you want to, you know, get together with the boys and play badminton, if you're in high school and you're on the badminton team, whatever, who cares? You want to play basketball, no problem. But it's really the watching of sports and the corporatizing of sports and the mainstream televising of sports, which I'm against, and which is nonsense. They've sold you the idea that watching sports is a manly thing. That watching sports and sitting on your TV like a fat, lazy loser with your beer in your hand and your jersey looking like a total tool, that you're a man. And there's nothing manly about it. Really, all they're doing, this is just another form of mentally masturbatory distraction that the system has given to men to keep them weak and to keep them distracted from their purpose. Whether it's on the, literally, the people who watch sports, they seem to be under the impression, like, you know, who keep up with all the games, that they're more manly than the loser who watches, like, anime or whatever. The guy who watches, like, Naruto and Bleach and One Piece, that they're more manly. But really, are they? Are they? It's the same thing. Whether you're watching the next Toronto Raptors game, or, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with watching it, but it's just being distracted by it and making that the purpose of your life. Like, how different is watching the next Toronto Raptors game really from watching the next episode of One Piece that comes out? There's no difference at all. You're, instead of being creating your own journey in life, your own mission towards the Most High, doing your own thing, of course within the law of God, instead of being a participant in life, you are being a sideline viewer of life. You are witnessing other people's journey, whether it's Luffy sailing the Grand Line on his on the Going Merry or Merry-Go. I don't know what the new ship is, the Thousand Sunny, or you're watching these men play their game, their journey. You're being a sideline watcher instead of a participant, and that's what they train you to do. And they make you, excuse me, they make you think that's masculine, but there's nothing masculine about it. It's actually quite embarrassing and childish, and I don't want to represent that on my head. I have now, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong if you wear that on your head, but me, the decision I've made is now I'm going to represent only anything on me that I stand with, that I rock with, and that is, of course, one God. I rock with that. On the back of this hat, it says one doctrine. I rock with that. I don't rock with any sports. I don't rock with their fake, riggedness, distraction that they've given to men. As a man in the 21st century, or in the 21st century so-called, if it even is that year, God knows best, my position on the matter of timelines and chronology is just as only God knows the future, only God knows the past. I don't think we can keep account of everything that's happened since the beginning. That belongs to God alone, but that's a separate issue altogether. But nonetheless, as a man in the 21st century, as we're called, you've been robbed of every single rite of passage, every single semblance of masculinity in your life, every single right to be a man. You have had that taken away from you. And then what they do, the system, is they sell you things like sports, pro sports, to replace that. It is a mentally masturbatory activity. It's a way for you to blow off some steam and to feel like you've accomplished or attained to something when really you've attained to nothing at all. It's a way for you to participate in glory that's completely vain and empty, and to feign masculinity when none is there at all. And the next thing that I want to say about sports, and this is not my own analysis, but this is something I got from a YouTuber by the name of Sverage. I don't think that's his real name, but his online name is Sverage. The guy's insane. He's crazy. I don't agree with like 90% of what he says. He's crazy. But the one thing he has said, which is very true, and I agree with this, is that really all sports is just a legal form of nationalism. Think about it. Well, what else? In what other scenario are you allowed to wave a flag proudly and yell and scream the name of your country and pretend like your country is the best? And I've already talked about the vanity of nationalism, but in what other avenue in life are you allowed to wave your country flag and pretend like your country is the best and be behind your country and be so proud about your country and paint yourself with the colors of your country and wear the colors of your country in that way, just with screaming and belligerence, other than sports? All it is legal forms of nationalism and racism. That's really all sports is. And this system, it hates nationalism. It likes nationalism to a certain extent, insofar as it's useful to the New World Order, but at least the liberal aspect of the New World Order, they hate nationalism, but at the same time, they're totally okay with pro sports. And I guess nationalism and racism, it's okay when the system allows for it. So like nowadays, I guess it's okay to be racist to Russians. That's fine. totally fine. During 9/11, it was okay to be racist to the whole 9/11 thing. It was okay to be racist to people who came from traditionally Muslim countries. And it's okay to be racist in sports because you can make a lot of money from it. It's corporate racism. It's profitized racism. But otherwise, you're not actually allowed to preserve your identity as a people, or to kind of just, it's utter hypocrisy. It's utter hypocrisy. And really, that's all sports is, just legal nationalism. And another thing about wearing these hats on my head, I was also thinking to myself, how different is it really from me wearing an image of a Kali Ma or Ganesh or Hanuman or one of these Hindu false deities, falsely so-called gods on my head? Because really, that's what these sports teams have become for a lot of people. I mean, I'm telling you, come down here in Ontario, go to the Six and see how people lose their mind over the Toronto Raptors. When they win their games, when they win their finals, when they lose their games, how people go crazy over it. Go to Pakistan and see how people just lose all their stability and become total spurgazoids. They spurg like nothing else when Pakistan loses a cricket match, when Pakistan wins a cricket match during Cricket World Cup time. And this goes back to what I said before. It's legal nationalism, and really these have become idols for many people. They worship these things. How different are these? Go watch videos of when the Toronto Raptors won the NBA Finals and how people are reacting. Tell me that their reactions are not similar to the religious zeal that people show at the Hindu temple. Tell me about that. It's totally similar. It's the exact same thing. It's this level of zeal. It's like it's reached to the point of pretty much worship for a lot of people. And for that reason, I'm not going to rep it on my head. And for that reason, I'm making this video just calling out pro sports for what it is. Once again, not saying you can't play sports. You can play perfectly fine, no problem, as long as you don't forget your purpose in life. But the corporatizing and the profitizing of sports, that's what I'm really talking against. But anyways, men, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing. And yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out.
Assalamu alaikum, men. My name is Waleed Naeem, and I have dedicated my entire life towards spreading the truth about the words of God. And I don't know about you, but personally, I have grown sick and tired of all these mainstream religions, and specifically the mosques, which have utterly failed us. I'm fed up with them placing the words of man, specifically their fabricated hadiths, at a higher authority than God's holy scriptures, their lack of knowledge about conspiracy facts and realpolitik, and their complete ignorance of the true nature of our earth. I've had enough of their compromise, their weakness, their lame sermons which put people to sleep, their virtue signaling, their fear of facing any real persecution, and their willingness to let the quote-unquote secular atheist utterly trample over them. The atheists own all of the educational boards and teach their propaganda to every so-called Muslim and quote-unquote non-Muslim child here in the West. And now with the Toyota Corolla hoax, the atheist has successfully broken apart our communities and made us utter slaves to their government. Our so-called quote-unquote Muslim sons are a bunch of wannabe hood rat gangsters who vape, drink, smoke weed, and party like animals. And our so-called quote-unquote Muslim daughters are not much different. They have no interest in hearing about the word of God. They are all too busy YOLOing. This has all happened while the imams have been living very comfortably off of the hard-earned money of their community members in the donation bins. As stated before, I personally am completely fed up with this. The mosques have had all of the support, funding, enfranchisement, and time of our communities, and have produced absolutely nothing. The atheist has made the so-called quote-unquote Muslim man his bitch. He has steamrolled him in every way possible. That is why I created Eyes Wide Open. This channel exists as a call to action for all of those strong believing men who trust in their Lord fully and refuse to compromise the Quran. It is time the true sons of Adam and the inheritors of the tremendous tradition, in other words, the true Quranic Muslims, to set up something for themselves and fearlessly stand up against the madness that is going on in the world. What you see with my channel right now is only the beginning. These short videos I make in my car are all that I have time for right now, working a full-time job. I scribble these together while at work and make these videos while running errands. But you ain't seen nothing yet. If God should will, I have so much more in store for Eyes Wide Open. I want this to be a platform for the believers. Just a couple of things I have planned for this channel is, firstly, creating scholarly books, documentaries, and essays to arm you guys with the intellectual firepower for dealing with all of our enemies. Secondly, I would like Eyes Wide Open to be a center for heavy activism, public and street preaching, going to City Hall, organizing protests, knocking doors, going to baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, and other major sporting events and preaching to the people leaving the stadium, going to the totally failed mosques, synagogues, and churches and debating with their religious leaders, going to universities and debating the quote-unquote secular professors on their laughable so-called science, and much more. It's time the believers start to fight back and shake the cage of this disgusting system. My goal is to create a base for the believers. I want people to know of our name, that there are dedicated, zealous, and studious men who do not compromise the word of God, and we are ready to take action. If we keep waiting for our mosque to do something about the real problems of this world, then we will be waiting until Judgment Day. We need to create something now from the ground up. With that being said, may God bless us in all of our endeavors and guide us every step of the way. If this sounds like something you are interested in, and if you want to be a part of the movement, then you can help me out. My Patreon and PayPal are linked in the description of every video. And, God willing, if enough generous believers decide to fund this platform, then I can quit my full-time job and look for something part-time, or, even better than that, leave employment completely, which will give me more hours in the day to do this work. I do not care to be rich. All of that stuff is vanity anyways. But the fact of the matter is, my wife and I need to eat and have a roof over our heads. So, if you wish to support the cause, then I thank you sincerely for that and promise to fight with might and main in the cause of God for the believers. If you are not able to, hey, then I totally understand. Find somebody else who needs that money and give it to them. Give it out of fear of your Lord and in dread of that great and terrible day, which is coming to all of us. For all of the believers out there, the brothers and sisters who follow hard upon the truth, all I can say is much love to each and every one of you. May God reward you in this life and the hereafter. Praise goes to God alone. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Peace.